Hey, so the Godzilla trailer is finally here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a pretty big Godzilla fan, and I've been waiting for this movie for a long time. I was always really excited, especially when I found out the cast was gonna be fantastic, the tone was gonna be serious. I mean, everything was seeming to line up for a really good Godzilla movie coming out of America, redeeming the Roland Emmerich mess and really taking it seriously like it should have. And it seems like people are pretty positive about the trailer. That's good that people are excited about Godzilla, but there are some real problems with that trailer. And I wouldn't be the kind of obsessive fan I am if I didn't waste everyone's time thinking about it, would I? But it's not just that I'm, not pleased as a fan or that I'm just annoyed by it. This is my favorite movie of all time. I know you think that, I'm sure you're going to say that makes me just unsatisfied by anything, but this is my favorite movie of all time because it was one of not only just a great monster movie that was really fun, but I think it was one of the smartest sci-fi films that have ever been made. I could spend, an hour or so explaining why, and I'll go into it a little bit, but it's because of that this trailer has failed in some really, really awful ways. Now, before I get started, I'm just going to point out, obviously, yeah, this is a trailer. It's not the movie. It's totally possible that the movie will be very different, that everything I'm observing right now is just not an accurate representation, and the movie will be a lot better. I hope that happens. That would be great. I'm making this off of the trailer and the trailer alone, which I'll remind you is why trailers exist, so people will watch them and then form an opinion about the movie. This movie and this trailer are inheriting a legacy. And I get it that it's supposed to stand on its own, but it isn't. It's a remake. They make it to capitalize off of the fame of the original and the franchise of the original, and that means it's not going to be separated. Moreover, whereas most Godzilla movies, the vast majority are pretty silly or campy or action-oriented, and really are just trying to be big, smashy monster movies, the first one isn't. It's a really smart, really good science fiction movie. And this movie is trying to be smart and serious and mature. That's admirable, but it's going to mean that I expect it to follow up on the legacy of a really damn good film. And why do I think Godzilla is so damn good, and is it my favorite movie of all time, bar none? It's really smart. And the reason it's really smart is not because it tackles serious issues or it's about something. Well, every movie, pretty much, in the 1950s that was science fiction at all was about the arms race and about nuclear weapons. In fact, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which was Godzilla's sort of direct ancestor, is a movie about a huge lizard monster that's awoken by nuclear testing, rampages through a city, and is killed by scientists. That movie is a historical footnote of cinema. Godzilla is a franchise that's lasted longer than James Bond. It got there off of being a better told story. And if you really watch it and get down to the original, that's what it is and why it works. Is because the characters are really good and the storytelling is really good. And everything about this trailer is saying that's not going to happen here. And now, how am I supposed to be judging this off of just a trailer? Because, I mean, like, come on. I'm missing most of every conversation. I don't get most of the characters, most of the arcs, or most of where it's going. But it's just some of the lines they give are setting off these really big alarm bells in my head. And that's just is what is so disheartening about it. Let's just start with one of the kind of opening lines, which is, so Bryan Cranston's character is yelling at someone about how they're covering this up. This wasn't a tsunami. This wasn't a typhoon or an earthquake. This was some kind of natural rampage disaster. You're hiding the truth. Someone did some really convenient graphs of how all Godzilla's size up. Basically, he got bigger over time. This one is by far the largest. Based on the scale they show in the various promo pics they've set out, this Godzilla is about 150 feet tall. This is an iPhone. I have it with me at pretty much most times of the day. That's a camera. In a major metropolitan city, there's going to be millions of these going around at any time. A 150-foot lizard destroys a metropolitan city full of iPods with cameras and phone connections in an era where people record their reactions to trailers online, and they're keeping this a secret. The original Godzilla was great because characters didn't do stupid things to make it seem smarter than it was. Everyone in Godzilla, all the characters, were intelligent. No one did just dumb things because they needed to push the plot along. Dr. Serizawa, the guy who created the weapon that killed Godzilla, the reason he didn't release that weapon was very good and well elaborated in the story. The reason why Dr. Yamane didn't want to destroy Godzilla wasn't just because, oh, I'm a scientist, I don't want to destroy science. No, he had a reason that they developed and built in the story. And as things developed further, he reacted reasonably and made opinions about it. Moreover, the government wasn't stupid. The government didn't just sit on their hands or deny that things were problems or be lazy about it. Yes, their original attempts to destroy Godzilla didn't work, but they were not because they were dumb attempts. They had no reason to believe depth charges and, military force wouldn't work. No. It was because... I'm turning the fan off right here. It was because they acted intelligently. And that was one of the things that made the movie really good. Is that everyone acts intelligently and there's still a problem. And that's one of the things that makes the drama real, the tension tense, and Godzilla a palpable threat. Because people acting intelligently is not enough to kill him. Like, the thing that sinks most sci-fi horror movies is that one of the parties is just being an utter idiot, and the plot could be solved if they just weren't so stupid. And you spend the whole movie saying, you freaking idiot, why are you not just believing the scientist who's obviously right and evacuating the city? No, you're obsessed with, your harvest festival, or you gotta keep the beaches open, and that causes the problem. And that's just, it's annoying. It's not serious, smart writing. It's blockbuster writing, and if all you want is to be a smashy monster movie, that's fine. it's great. It's the logic that runs on a lot of some Godzilla movies I love, but this movie's trying to be smart, and it's clear it's trying to be smart. Also, and they kind of develop on this, and they're talking about, um, you know, it's clear that the reason they're doing this is because that's going to make it topical for two reasons. Number one, you pick up on all the government conspiracy, Heidi, NSA stuff that's, Surus business, and I'm not saying it isn't, not trying to make a political point about that, I'm just saying that it's, they're doing it because that's a big issue, and not because they have actually something to say about it, based on this trailer, and based on how they're presenting it, and I'll get into that in a second. And two, because, that makes the obvious environmentalist message of, global warming climate deniers. And, again, not trying to talk about that issue in particular, I'm talking about a movie and how a movie is talking about it, but one of the reasons, again, that the original Godzilla worked is because it wasn't a metaphor for atomic bombs or atomic proliferation. It was just about atomic bombs and atomic proliferation. They talked about those things. People mentioned them and had opinions about them. No one minced words when they talked about, that they think that atomic testing is causing has caused Godzilla to wake up and has basically inundated it with radiation. They just go out and say that. You don't have to wonder if it's a metaphor that Dr. Serizawa was worried about arms proliferation. He goes out and says that. And if you're gonna make this a big metaphor and make it all symbolic and, oh, Godzilla is clearly climate change, or he's clearly, or, the government being hiding about him is totally symbolic of something, you're not going to make a good movie, or you're not going to make a good point, because those things don't work as metaphors. Whatever you might say symbolically, you're not going to ever look at a 150-foot-tall rampaging lizard and see that as any kind of real allegory or connection to how climate change or how government security or, I don't know, healthcare or drone warfare, whatever issue you want to talk about, it's fine to make science fiction about them, but there's this fear people have that you can never just directly talk about something in your science fiction movie. You have to make it some, thick metaphor with, bad guys and good guys. And that's not good. That's not the kind of good storytelling you got out of the original Godzilla. The original Godzilla was great because it was direct and it didn't use Godzilla as a sloppy metaphor. He was a big lizard. He was a big lizard, and they talked about the issues they wanted to talk about. And that's not what I'm getting out of this trailer. I'm getting out of it that it wants to be The Day After Tomorrow, and it wants to be every other, smart movie where everything is just kind of used to let a director make all of his veiled, poking, points and kind of just sneak it under the rug all of these critiques and, snideness about his opponents. And you know what? That's not good science fiction. And I wouldn't even be so worried if Garth Edwards' last movie, that's the director, by the way, his last movie, Monsters, wasn't full of this crap, wasn't full of pretentious wanking where he pretended it was about a monster movie but then kept slipping in all this symbolism where he wouldn't go out and say his point, but he just kind of casually push under the symbolism that, oh, by the way, this is my point, and obviously the bad guys are representative of the guys I don't like. And that's just immature storytelling, and it's not making me excited about this movie. Again, I don't care what your politics are or what the politics of Garth Edwards are. I can respect almost any point made if it's made well, and maybe this is made well. Again, just a trailer, just making my observations off the trailer, but this trailer does not make me think this movie is going to approach the issues it's taking on intelligently. And further proof of that, for me, later in the trailer, Ken Watanabe delivers the line where he says, I'm paraphrasing, and he delivers it well, obviously, great actor, but he talks about how the mistake of man is thinking we're in control of nature, and it's the other way around. And first of all, that's a stupid line. I'm not saying it isn't true. I'm saying it's a dumb, poorly written, cliched line that people wouldn't actually say. But again, it's showing what the movie is and what it's not, or what it's looking to be. Is that it's not a film about something. It's a film that's a platform for delivering symbolism. In the original Godzilla, and it's not, I know I'm probably telling you I'm just fanboying about the original, I guess I am, but I'm just saying that this is a comparison, because obviously it's a fair comparison to make, but it didn't have lines like that. There was no point where Dr. Yamane just delivered a general line about the fate of nature and the, what is the purpose of man. No. He didn't have to. You don't have to be talking about grand ideas of nature and, life, the universe, and everything when a giant Godzilla is rampaging. You can talk about what's happening. And that's one of the things that made it smart, is that the way it got its points out was by building them out of the context, not by characters stopping and soliloquizing grandiose bumper sticker wisdom off into space. That's pretentious. Though that line in that trailer, that is pretentious, and it's obnoxious. In the original Godzilla, which this should be trying to emulate and has every ability to emulate, they would not have a line like that. They would have people saying what they mean and what they think, and they would trust the viewer to kind of come up with the grander stuff. So again, am I saying it's going to be bad or going to be all like that in the movie? I don't know. But this trailer does not make me think it's going to be better. I started with that big point because it's the softer point of my contention. What I'm going to go into next is where this trailer goes from just being not exciting to actually making me a little fucking mad. And this is where, if it ever had me, I could just, because it's not, you can see up there is a poster for Godzilla vs. Gigan. That's a bad movie. I love it. It's a bad movie. But I love it anyway, because I'm willing to sorry, I'm getting a little flustered right now. I'm willing to forgive a lot from a Godzilla movie because I'm such a fan of the series. If it seems like I'm just being some, obsessive fanboy who will never accept anything different, no. I accept a ton. I'm willing to forgive a ton. But there's one thing I'm not willing to forgive. And this is what sank the Roland Emmerich Godzilla movie for me, and it's what's so far sinking me on this one. Because I will forgive disrespect of the franchise you're in. In Roland Emmerich's movie, it came out of the fact that he obviously had no interest in making a Godzilla movie, would rather have made Jurassic Park, and was only doing this for a paycheck, and it showed, and the movie sucked. In this one, it's worse, because they are doing something that's downright offensive. I'm going to back up a little bit, and talk a little about the original movie. I'm not going to get into too much of it, because it's a complex, long story, but suffice to say, it was inspired by an event, which was the sinking of the Lucky Dragon 5. In the 1950s, Americans were testing A-bombs and H-bombs in the Pacific Ocean. They had a whole big safe zone lined up and like a danger zone, and at one point, a Japanese fishing boat in the supposed safe zone was sunk by the shockwave and backlash from one of the tests. Furthermore, the crew members who survived died of radiation poisoning. It was a very contentious, very big issue in Japan and became one of the inspiring points of the movie. It's why the movie, I mean, what I was going to say, the movie opens with a Japanese fishing boat being sunk and and one of the crew members dying of radiation poisoning. Again, the reason that's not that's not a bad metaphor is because they are willing to actually just go out later and talk about A-bomb testing as being the direct cause of Godzilla, so it's a lot closer linked, but that's neither here nor there. I'm talking about now is one of the bigger lines they reveal in the movie. Apparently, they're doing what a lot of the later Godzillas did, which was that even though the continuity rebooted several times within the original Japanese movies, the first Godzilla movie always stayed as the first part of the continuity, i.e., the first Godzilla came, rampaged, was killed by Dr. Serizawa's oxygen destroyer, and then the sequels, it's a different Godzilla. And they're kind of doing that here. Which I guess, usually I'd say, hey, that's a cool nod. They're acknowledging how they used to do that. It's kind of weird that now they're going to still be denying or concealing the existence of Godzilla, but whatever. But they reveal, through a line in the movie, that apparently the original A and H bomb tests in the Pacific Ocean weren't tests. They were attempts to destroy the original Godzilla. Why isn't this just a cute continuity nod? Because people actually died during those tests. That was the event that inspired Godzilla. I'm yelling because this is offensive. That is horrible. That is downright awful that they would have that as a plot point. That they're saying that because, if you think about it, the existence of Godzilla is a threat to millions of people. So if they killed one or two or poisoned some people or hurt the environment stopping him, that is arguably justified. It is not just we're testing new weapons, that this is the arms race. It is them saying, we did this in this location because we felt we had no choice. They are rewriting history to justify it. That's despicable. That is horrible that you would write that as your plot point. And it's like, of all the history to do it, you do the tragedy that inspired the original Godzilla. I mean, it just shows this unbelievably tone-deaf attitude towards creating this movie that is, I mean, I'm going to go watch this movie still. I have to. At this point, I've talked so much crap about it that I have to see it to give it a fair chance. But I am just going on the record now saying that is not okay. That is not an acceptable way to deal with the franchise that you are capitalizing off of. You are using this franchise's name to get people to see your movie. That's all right. That's not a problem in and of itself. But show some respect to the people who made that original movie and made it a classic. Like I said, I'm not going to go into further why it's so horrible, because hopefully I don't need to, and if you think I do, I probably can't convince you because I don't know how you're thinking, but I just have to wrap up here because there's nothing I can go on after that. When I first heard that line, my eyes just went numb. My brain hurt. I was just heartbroken, not just because of what they were doing, but because I was excited about this movie, and I thought it was going to be good, and I told people I was stoked about it, and the cast was great, and that, oh, they're taking it seriously, it's going to be good, and I just felt a microcosm, a tiny little speck of the betrayal that was actually being done to the filmmakers of the original Godzilla and the legacy of it, and the people who died on the Lucky Dragon 5. I have to end on a happier note. This is just a trailer. It's just a trailer. For all I know, that line is going to be taken out before the movie comes out. Because that happens sometimes. Maybe they'll realize a mistake and just totally change the plot about that. That's happened before. That's happened with movies. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe the trailer is just a total pack of crap, and the movie's going to be great, and they're just packaging it up for some reason. I hope that's the case. I hope that happens, and that I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I didn't guess this right. But I'm just saying that from now on, I'm curbing my enthusiasm a whole hell of a lot. I'm not recommending this movie to anyone because, you know, they're not making a smart movie. They're making a movie that's pretentious, that's offensive, and that thinks it's a lot smarter than it is. And I don't feel like a Godzilla movie should be written by Tumblr. Bye.